Good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to be here. I want to thank you, first of all, for the opportunity to speak today, but also the fact that for several months now, you have let us use this building, the rooms in this building for meeting. Well, it's been more than a year now, actually. So I thank you very much. Our group is still working to save the city farm, and I think we can do it if people join with us and work for it. So I'm going to start this sermon. When I was asked to do this, I was told it was about the mission, and part of it would be how did I get involved in something like this? And the more I thought about it, I had to go back to when I was 20 years old in 1969. And let me tell you about 1969. Well, first of all, I want to tell you a little story. It's something that happened very recently. Actually, in July, I was over at the Hampton Convention Center, and Langley was celebrating 100 years. And I was sitting there, I was on the front row, and it was, the VIPs were here in the middle, on the front row, just like here today, of course. And, I was over on the side. I was on the front row, but I was over on the side, with my camera, of course. And I was making photographs and videos. And I didn't know until right before this happened, somebody announced, well, there's this special person in our audience, and he gets up and turns around and salutes, and it's on the newspaper the next day. And I, of course, wanted to meet the man because he was an astronaut. And then, but this was in the morning session, the first session, and he got up and left soon after, and I didn't have time to meet him. But then, later, I was sitting in the same spot, and he comes in the middle of the next session, and he sits down next to me. Of course, this is Buzz Aldrin. He's the only one from Apollo 11 who actually walked on the moon who's still living today. He's 87. So he's leaning over and asking me questions because he's a little hard of hearing at his age. And so I try to explain what I can to him because some of what's being said, I'm not sure myself. It's going over my head. But anyway, I say this first of all because I was on a mission at the same time he was on the moon. I was in Chelsea, Massachusetts, and I have some photos out in the hallway on the table there from that and other places I've been. And we were renovating a church building. Now this building was built in 1909, and it was 60 years old, but the last several years, maybe the last couple of decades probably, that area had been in decline. And they had been offered, in today's money, it would be an equivalent of over $1 million for the land to be sold to build a high-rise. But this was in a strategic location. It was 1 block from the main intersection in Chelsea, a city of about 35,000 now. And so what happened? They voted. It was American Baptist congregation, and they sold it to the Southern Baptist for 11,000, about 74,000 in today's terms. And at the same time, I volunteered to go on a work camp to Nevada. We were going to build a church building in Nevada, and so we were all prepared to go out there. And it all fell through. So we ended up going to Chelsea. But I learned things in Chelsea that maybe I wouldn't have learned in Nevada. Because we had to deal with people, all kinds of people. Because Chelsea was, well, they said at the time it was one of the roughest neighborhoods in the metropolitan area, Boston, Massachusetts. And it never really seemed that way. What I did at the time, and I haven't done this all my life, but at the time I kept a journal, day to day, of what was going on. We also wrote letters home. I wrote letters to people at home individually, but also they had a newsletter that was sent out to various college, well, it was a Baptist student, yeah, actually, and it was sent out to people. And so I kept all those, and about 12 years ago I typed them up and had this booklet about 60 pages long of my adventures in Chelsea. And so I'll just read a few excerpts from that. This church building is of lovely brown stone on the outside, but inside the plaster is falling, the paint peeling, the dust is thick, and the members have vanished. It is strange to walk through the remains of what once a thriving church. This building could seat 500 normally, but they had these big doors at the back you could open up, and it would seat over 1,000 people altogether. And there were 11 members still active in the church, and it only took 6 people to vote on what to do with the building. And fortunately, it's still an active church. It has all kinds of ministries today there in Chelsea. Chelsea is maybe it's about half or close to half Hispanic right now. And when I went on their website, I saw that they had a mission down there in Honduras. So it's not only reaching the local people there, but they're going out to other places too, and people with all kinds of needs. When we went there, of course, we were concerned whether we would have contact with the people. Now, just so happened that's the first week or so, a young reporter from the local newspaper came and took a picture of us, and we made the front page of the paper. And so we got known pretty well in the city after that, and there were people coming by, but especially the young people. There was a corner across the street from us, and some of the kids that we later met told us that was the Jewish corner because the Jewish teenagers would hang out there. And they would come in at night, and we had, with our group, we had a group, it was a group of 9 students, college students from Virginia. And there was a family, the director of missions ministry, campus ministry in Williamsburg, William & Mary, who was the chaperone, the leader of the group, and his wife and 2 children were there too. So there were 13 from Virginia. There were 4 more that came, and they were going to conduct day camps in different locations throughout the metropolitan area. So so they stayed with us part of the time, and were able to conduct a day camp in the building the last couple of weeks we were there. There was this man, a young man, about my age, I guess, a student from Washington. He was a student at the Berkeley School of Music there in Boston. And he played his trombone. And one evening, he was there in this big sanctuary playing it, and some of these teenagers come in, and we had just accidentally left the door open, the front door, and that's when we first had contact with the teenagers. And some of them kept coming back, and Jim was kind of a funny guy. He would play late at night sometimes, so we had to find a way to sleep also, because we worked long days, 5 days a week, and then we did some sightseeing on the weekend. Of course, we conducted church services there on Sunday, and it was a busy schedule. So we learned that we could prevent him from practicing by just hiding the mouthpiece from the trombone. So we did that a few times, and then we located a room at the far end of the building where he could actually practice. And the college students, the male college students, slept in the basement of the church the whole time. So we had to switch from one room to another while we were painting one room, we slept in another room, and then we switched. And most of the time we slept on the cots. And the family, and there were 3 female students who slept in the parsonage. So they had the TV, and on July 20th, of course, that was the day that the first men landed on the moon. I was there, and we were there watching it. It was in the afternoon when the landing actually took place, but the moonwalk wasn't until late in the evening. And matter of fact, I stayed up all till about 1:30, I believe, in the morning, watching it, all of it. So I say all that, first of all, when you're on a mission, first of all, it may start out in one direction, you may end up in another. Also, what you do, it may be more, let's say, more attractive to build something new, but in the end, maybe it's more important to preserve something that needs to be preserved. And maybe it's important to do the menial things. We actually loaded 6 dump trucks with, first of all, some yard waste, but mostly from the trash that was in the church building. Accumulated from all those years. People had left all kinds of stuff. I don't know why, but we loaded 6 trucks with it. And another point I want to make about the moon landing is that we think of it as being a NASA thing. Maybe a few hundred, or maybe a few thousand people were involved in it. I located a book recently, and it said 400,000 people were involved in one way or another in that first landing on the moon. So some of them had maybe small parts, but everything was important. So, and I want to emphasize that